Welcome back to another test preparation lesson to help you pass the Science of Teaching Reading test. In this video, I will walk you through each of our Science of Teaching Reading practice test questions, give you the answer, and provide you with an explanation for why that is the correct answer. When you're ready, click the red button and let's begin. Here we are at the Science of Teaching Reading practice test number 1. For more information, just visit www.teacherstr.com. Type in your email address, and let's start. Which of the following practices by a kindergarten teacher best reflects an asset-based approach to reading instruction? Is it planning instruction in various areas of reading using continuously adjusted flexible grouping according to each child's current assessed knowledge and skills, allowing individual children to develop an interest in literacy at their own pace before introducing them to foundational reading concepts and skills, ensuring that each child in an emergent reading group has mastered the current reading concept or skill before moving the group on to the next lesson, building opportunities in each lesson for children to use multiple modalities to deepen their understanding of new reading concepts. Well, I'm looking at this, and option A is correct because an assets-based approach to reading instruction focuses on what children know rather than on what children do not know. So, by continuously adjusting flexible grouping according to the current assessment data that the teacher has picked up, the teacher then knows each child's growth in various areas of reading. So, therefore, option A is best. Let's keep going. Number 2, a first grade student has been identified as having dyslexia and has begun intervention. Which of the following approaches to instruction would be most effective to enhance the student's reading development? Is it allowing the student to use colored overlays on a classroom text to ameliorate the visual difficulties caused by dyslexia, using reading materials with the student for instruction and guided practice that utilize specialized fonts designed for people with dyslexia, arranging for the students to spend time each day on the classroom computer using a working memory training program, or providing the student with systematic, explicit, multimodal instruction in all the essential evidence-based components of reading? Well, let's think about this. I'm thinking, I'm narrowing down. I'm going to letter D, and yes, option D is the best answer because research on dyslexia supports that language-based and different types of approaches to instruction, which are systematic and explicit. Well, they address all 5 of the reading components, which of course is phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and text comprehension. So all of this integrates spelling and writing instruction with reading instruction, and that's really what we want. So we're going to go with option letter D. Number 3, a third grade teacher frequently uses an online application at the end of a lesson that allows the teacher to post as, I believe that should be small task or question for students on the classroom computer. For example, after a lesson on prefixes, the teacher posts 3 base words and asks students to change the meaning of each word by adding an appropriate prefix from the lesson. Throughout the day, students post their individual responses for the teacher to review. In this scenario, the teacher is using technology for which of the following assessment purposes? Well, I'm looking at number 3. We have formative assessment, diagnostic assessment, summative assessment, and screening assessment. So for this, it would definitely be formative assessment, and that's because the purpose of a formative assessment is to obtain the information about what each student has learned and what they're able to do during instruction. So in this scenario, the teacher uses the online application as an exit ticket to check individual students' learning with respect to given reading lessons, such as instruction on prefixes, for example. The teacher can use this data collected to inform and adjust subsequent instruction. So yeah, we're definitely going to go with option A here. Next one, at the beginning of the school year, a first grade teacher conducts a brief screening assessment in which the teacher asks small groups of students to spell 4 CVC, so consonant, vowel, consonant words, and one word with a consonant blend. So for example, bag, hen, sit, mop, slug. In addition to providing the teacher with information about students' knowledge of letter-sound correspondences, this type of assessment would also provide information about the student's development in which of the following areas related to emergent reading. So first of all, we have vocabulary knowledge, and then phonological awareness, and then phonemic awareness, and then listening comprehension. So pause this and check what you think it's going to be. All right, we're going to go with letter C, phonemic awareness, and that's because in this assessment, the students are representing phonemes, remember, which are sounds, with graphemes, remember, which are letters. So the number of graphemes a student writes and the sequence of the graphemes provides insight into the student's phonemic awareness. Now, specifically, their phonemic segmentation skills. So that would be the best answer for this. That is letter C, phonemic awareness. Let's go to the next one. A pre-kindergarten teacher is preparing an introductory lesson focused on isolating / identifying the initial sound in spoken words for a small group of children whose informal assessments indicate that they are ready to learn this skill. The group includes an English learner. Which of the following instructional supports would best promote the English learner's success in achieving the instructional goal of this lesson? So again, take a pause. All right, we're going to go with option letter A, and that's because when focusing on the skill of isolating and identifying phonemes, remember, which are sounds, in spoken words, English learners benefit from stimulus words that contain familiar sounds. Research has shown that babies as young as 10 months stop attending to and producing speech sounds that do not occur in their home languages. So we know that by the time that children are at the school age, they require explicit instruction to be able to perceive phonemes that are not present at the home language. So we're going to go with letter A. Next. As part of an informal assessment of students' phonemic awareness skills, a kindergarten teacher meets with individual students and says, "We're going to play a word game. I'm going to say a word that you know. When you hear it, I want you to say each sound in the word in the right order. For example, if I say fan, you should say f, a, n." The teacher then helps the student practice the procedure using the practice words in, sat, and top. After meeting with each student, the teacher reviews students' performance and notices that several students performed similarly on the assessment. A representative sample of their assessment results is shown below. Given this information that's below, which of the following student activities would be best or most appropriate for the teacher to include when planning differentiated instruction to promote the student's growth in phonemic awareness? Now, everyone, as you can see, these questions are lengthy and it's tough to read fast during your actual test. This is part of the reason why I so believe in using these practice tests that we have at teacherstr.com, as well as picking up our study guide and our online course, because we not only provide the information that will allow you to practice this skill of not only taking the test, but also better understanding and quizzing yourself on the actual concepts of the test. So go ahead, pause the video, go grab the study guide if you already haven't. Again, it's at teacherstr.com, as well as our online course. And if you really want to feel 100% prepared for the test and you don't want to have to take the test again and spend the energy, the time, and the money, go ahead and get our bundle package, which is the study guide and the online course all together. All right, that being said, down below we have some information. On the left column, these are the target words: at, men, line, hot, gum. On the right column, we have the student response, okay, which we can see whether they line up or not. All right, now next, our options here, we have identify and imagine the initial, medial, and final sounds of words represented by pictures. practicing reading simple words that belong to common word families, identifying and matching pictures that represent words with the same onset or rhyme, and then lastly, practicing reading a variety of simple decodable text. So again, pause this, see which you would choose, and in a moment here, I'll continue. Remember that the information that we need to find is, given the information that they've given us, what's the most appropriate response for the teacher to include when planning differentiated instruction to promote the student's growth in this area of phonemic awareness. Now, for everyone, we're going to go with letter A, and A is correct because the task described in this scenario is asking the students to say each sound in a word in the correct order. And this is an example of phoneme segmentation task. In analysis of students' responses to the target words suggests that the students can segment words into onsets and rhymes, but not all individual phonemes. So now the teacher needs to promote the student's ability to perceive individual sounds in words at a skill level that is between onset rhyme segmentation and phoneme segmentation. So this is all to say that having the students practice identifying the initial, medial, and final sounds that are represented in these words by pictures, that would help build what they can already do in a more extensive way while continuously focusing on that phonological and phonemic awareness skill. So letter A would be best, and let's keep going. Next one says, a kindergarten teacher is planning instruction for a small group of students. As you'll notice, a lot of this is for small group instruction. So when you're reading the study guide, pay particular attention to the areas we have marked for small group instruction. All right, small group of students who have mastered the letter sound relationships for the consonants M, S, T, and P, and for the short vowel sound of the letter A. The students also consistently spell words using both initial and final consonant sounds in their daily writing. Given this information, which of the following instructional activities would be most appropriate for the teacher to use with these students to promote their transition to the next step along the continuum of development of knowledge and skills related to the alphabetic principle? All right, so we have a couple of options here, and option number 1 is exploring the letter sounds for letter names that do not contain the sound that the letter represents, for example, H and W. The second one says introducing the students to early decodable text featuring known letter sound relationships and modeling how to sound out the words. Number 3, consolidating the student's knowledge of letters that contain the letter's sound at the beginning of the letter's name, for example, B, D, J, K, and Q. And then lastly, practicing writing each letter of the alphabet in response to a spoken prompt of the letter's sound to build motor memory for letter sound relationships. Pause it, ask yourself, what would you choose? All right, everyone, we are going with option letter B, and the second one, or B, it is correct because the kindergarten students described in this scenario are able to spell words with the letter sound relationships that they know. This suggests that they understand the alphabetic principle and can perceive at least 2 phonemes in a word. And because of this, they understand the encoding and the decoding, so the students are ready to begin reading early decodable texts that feature the letter sound relationships that they know. So this will benefit from experiencing teacher modeling, which will reinforce the understanding of decoding and their entire process of learning the alphabetic principle at the next level, which is what the question is asking. Next question asks, a pre-kindergarten teacher is planning instruction in letter sound relationships for a group of beginning level English learners who have begun identifying and naming the letters of the alphabet. Which of the following strategies would likely be most effective to apply with this group of children? Pause here and Ask yourself which one you would choose. All right. First, we have using oral transitions of tongue twisters from the children's home languages to draw their attention to letter sounds that are common between the two languages. That doesn't sound right to me. Next, letter B, ensuring that the student can distinguish between illustrations and print and also identify the parts of a printed sentence as prerequisites to learning letter sounds. And letter C, employing articulatory feedback to help the children discover English letter sounds that are not in the home language and learn how to pronounce them, showing the children how to use a variety of simple, phonemic devices to help them memorize unfamiliar English letter sounds. So, option here is letter C, and that is because English learners learning letter sound relationships that are not in their home language benefit from this positive feedback to discover how to pronounce the sounds properly. All right, let's go on. A second grade teacher frequently uses the strategy of phoneme-to-grapheme mapping as part of phonics instruction, which is great. The teacher selects target words from a phonics lesson and creates sound boxes corresponding to the words. The teacher then helps students write the target words in sound boxes, making sure that students map each sound of a word to a single box. Examples of sound boxes from two different phonics lessons are shown below. Using this activity in the context of phonics lessons best describes the teacher's understanding of which of the following key concepts related to beginning reading instruction. Now let's have a look at the sample sound boxes from one of the students down below. As you can see, the top box has CH. Okay, got it. So we have sample sound boxes for group 1 at the top and group 2 at the bottom. Now, our selections here, our options are letter A, the importance of sequencing phonics instruction according to the increasing complexity of linguistic units. B, the relationship between accurate automatic decoding and the development of reading fluency and comprehension. C, the importance of utilizing the reciprocity between decoding and encoding to reinforce phonics instruction. And D, the relationship between providing students with frequent practice with decodable texts and the development of automaticity. Again, have a look at this. Choose the answer that you feel is best. All right, so we're going to go with letter C, and that is because phoneme and grapheme mapping is a visual activity that allows students to map graphemes onto the individual phonemes or sounds that they represent in the word. So, for example, a grapheme, remember that a grapheme is a written symbol that represents a sound. So a grapheme can be a single letter or a sequence of letters. And in a phoneme-grapheme map, each box is a sound box, and only one sound can go into each box. So a phoneme-to-grapheme mapping provides students with a visual aid to reinforce phonics elements such as consonant blends, remember like CH and chair, and vowel teams, remember like AI and EA, those groupings with vowels right next to each other. And now each of these make one sound and therefore appear in one sound box. And consonant blends, for example like NT or ST, which make two sounds and therefore must be mapped into two sound boxes. Now, by engaging the phoneme-grapheme mapping, students both hear and see the relationship between the letters, the letter combinations, and the sounds that they represent. Everyone, the STR test is super in-depth and packed full of information that you need to know. And if you want to stop scurrying from book to book, looking around for the best place to study, I highly recommend just going with our study guide, our online course, or our bundle that includes both of them together. Just get all of the information that you need to know only for the test in order to pass on your next try. I mean, this stuff is really, really complex, but you found the one place that has everything in one place. Go ahead, spend a little bit of cash to get a huge outcome. Pass your test, become a credentialed teacher. By the way, did you know that credentialed teachers make more than $7,000 on average than non-credentialed teachers? That's a first year credentialed teacher, right? On the second year, you make even more, and on the third year, you just continuously make more. You don't want to not pass your test and then wait months, perhaps even a year, or not even get into the profession just because this one test is holding you back. So go ahead, spend a little bit for a huge result. Let's go on to the next question. A kindergarten teacher reads a decodable text about cats with a small group of students and then incorporates the content of the text into an interactive writing lesson. First, the teacher has students orally generate several sentences that relate to the actions of the cat in the story. The teacher then says, "Those are great sentences. Help me write them on the chart paper." For each decodable word in a sentence, the teacher pauses to prompt the students to listen to the sounds of the word and use their knowledge of letter-sound correspondences that they practiced in the decodable text to identify which letter the teacher should write next. It's kind of a cool activity. This scenario best demonstrates the teacher's awareness of which of the following concepts related to students' development of beginning reading skills. Is it letter A, the role of basic print concepts in reading development? B, the importance of fostering students' motivation to read and write? C, the role of accurate automatic decoding in fluent writing? Or D, the importance of applying newly taught phonics elements to writing? Take a moment here. Think what answer you feel is best. Use the information that you currently know to select the best answer. All right, everyone, we are going with letter D. Letter D is the best, and that is because this scenario describes an interactive writing lesson designed to prompt students to apply what they know about phonics in writing words in a meaningful context. The teacher models the thinking process of going from idea to print on page, which that modeling is really, really great for students to see. And the teacher knows the phonics elements students have already learned in instruction because the teacher is the teacher. So knowing what the teacher knows, this writing in a sentence helps the students to pick up what they need to do too. This includes phonics elements that they've already learned, and as well as the teacher asks the students to apply those letter-sound relationships to spell in the words that they're writing. This type of interactive writing routine in which students share the pen is what we call it in education. They share the pen with the teacher. This provides the students with the opportunity to apply newly taught phonics elements to meaningful writing, by which the phonics skills that they have already learned and they're beginning to use in order to decode the words in the stories that they're reading. This helps them construct meaning in the sentences of the story. So use this shared pen activity, this skill, this instructional strategy in your own classes once you become a teacher, but of course definitely know it for the STR test. The best answer here is letter D. Let's go on. Next one. A first grade teacher would like to incorporate instruction in morphemes for students who have mastered reading and spelling closed and open syllable words. Which of the following skills is best aligned with both the teacher's goal and the continuum of word reading skills described in the first grade TExES essential knowledge and skills for English language arts and reading? Now these are two different sections. We have them each on our study guide and in our online course. You have to know it. It's part of the competencies written within the domains of the Science of Teaching Reading test, written by the test administrators. If you're not familiar already with this, make sure you go ahead and have a double look at this, either whether you get the study guide, the online course, or both, but we have sections explaining these. Now, we have a couple of options here. Again, we have A, B, C, and D. A says decoding and identifying the meaning of words with the these inflectional endings, decoding and spelling words with vowel teams and R-controlled syllables, decoding and identifying the meaning of words with affixes, these affixes, and then decoding and spelling words with initial and final consonant blends and digraphs. Now everyone, I'm not going to go over in this video what inflectional endings, R-controlled syllables, affixes, suffixes, prefixes, consonant blends, what those are, digraphs, and that's because those are in the online course, and here the expectation is that you already know it, and we're going through a practice test. Okay, so take a moment and choose your best answer. All right, now we're going to go with letter A. And now letter A is best here because in first grade, as you're going to have to know, the morpheme instruction should focus on decoding, and which means reading, right? Focus on decoding and identifying the meaning of words in inflectional endings, these S, ES, and ED. Now, according to the TExES Essential Knowledge and Skills for English Language Arts and Reading, evidence-based research suggests that kindergarten and first grade students demonstrate emerging morphological awareness that is both explicit and direct from the teacher's instruction. So the teacher should teach the students how to apply inflectional endings to words that follow these patterns. They're called phonics patterns that the students already know how to read. So the teacher can easily explain or demonstrate the meaning of these types of endings, like, for example, plural markers and past tense markers, in order to see where their students are at so that they can level them up where they should go. Next, a second grade student scores well above the 50th percentile benchmark for fluency on the mid-year benchmark assessment. However, the teacher notes that the student reads the text word by word in a choppy, disjointed manner and has difficulty answering comprehension questions afterwards. Which of the following strategies would be most important for the teacher to include in an intervention designed to address the student's assessed needs? Is it letter A, engaging in a systemic review of phonics elements that should be mastered by the middle of second grade? B, engaging in silent, wide reading of books written at the student's independent reading level. C, engaging in oral reading following the teacher's modeling using the texts that are phrase cued to approximate speech. Or is it D, engaging in buddy reading and choral reading with another student who reads at that same level? Take a moment here and select your best answer. Best answer is letter C, and that's because the description of the student's reading suggests that difficulty with prosody, which is one of the key indicators of reading fluency. So this student who is reading word by word in a choppy, disjointed manner will likely have difficulty understanding what they have read. One feature of prosody is reading with proper phrasing. Now, to capture the meaning of the text and or the lesson of the story or the author's intent, they're going to need to be able to read more fluently. Now, in order to scaffold this more smooth type of reading, the teacher can provide a scaffold for which these phrases in a section of the text represent speech-like phrasing. So that's what you're going to want to do as the teacher in order to help a student who is reading with this choppy style. Let's go on to the next question. Several students in a first grade class have progressed from the partial alphabetic phrase of word reading development to the full alphabetic phrase. Which of the following instructional activities would be most appropriate for promoting the students' word reading accuracy and automaticity? Is it A, having the students practice reading simple, closed, syllable words in isolation and in decodable text? B, modeling the use of contextual strategies to read unfamiliar words? C, increasing the amount of time the students spend practicing reading regular, high-frequency words? Or is it D, supporting the students in reading predictable texts in a variety of genres? Take a moment, select the answer that you think is best. The best answer here is letter A, and that's because the students in the full alphabetic phrase of word reading development need multiple exposures to explicitly be taught syllable types to consolidate their learning and develop automaticity which is an essential component of reading fluency. Students in this earlier partial alphabet phrase of word reading read words by forming partial connections between the more salient sounds in a word and also the sounds we found in graphemes or letter representation. So students at this stage primarily rely on predicting words from their initial letter sounds that they already know, as well as the context. So they might look at a picture and they can kind of guess, okay? Students advance to the full alphabetic phrase when they can form complete connections between graphemes and phonemes. Students at this stage sound out closed syllable words into individual sounds by using their phonemic segmentation and blending skills and their growing knowledge of phonics. Now, at first, students will sound out and blend each letter sound in a word. However, when they are given opportunities to sound out words multiple times, they can accumulate words they have decoded and begin to recognize them automatically, that's what we want. We want kids to read automatically or build automaticity. Having the students practice reading simple closed syllable words in isolation and in decodable text supports this process of allowing the students to recognize an increasing number of words automatically by sight, while orthographic or spelling knowledge continues to accumulate. This is exactly what we want, which is having the students read in simple closed syllable words in isolation in decodable text for that student's reading level. By assessing students, before assigning students a new science or social studies text, a third grade teacher introduces important Tier 3 terms from the text. As part of the introduction, the teacher leads the students in applying morphemic analysis skills to the words and also discusses new concepts related to the words. The teacher's actions best reflect an understanding of which of the following factors that can disrupt reading fluency and affect comprehension. Is it A, lack of automaticity in decoding grade level words, B, unfamiliarity with the text's content, C, unfamiliarity with complex grammatical structures, or D, limited phonics knowledge or skills? Pause here, choose your best answer. If you're going with B, you are right, and B is correct because the teacher's actions in leading students in applying morphemic analysis of skills to these Tier 3 words in text and then discussing new concepts related to the words demonstrate the teacher's awareness that vocabulary knowledge and concept development are closely interrelated. Discipline-specific vocabulary development involves concept learning, and concept learning supports academic language and vocabulary development. The next question asks, which of the following sets of words would be most appropriate to categorize as Tier 2 words? So you're going to have to know what Tier 1, 2, and 3 words are. So let's have a look here. We have A, fossil, air, soil, B, clock, book, floor, C, arrange, observe, predict, and D, custom, shelter, community. Tier 2 words are letter C, arrange, observe, and predict. So option C is best here because Tier 2 words are words that represent more sophisticated or academic versions of everyday vocabulary. For example, arrange is a more academic word, which is actually a verb in particular, for place to put in order. For example, observe is a more academic word for look, and predict is a more academic word for guess. Because Tier 2 words are used less frequently in social language, students often find them challenging because they primarily encounter them in print. However, many Tier 2 words have high utility in academic contexts. In contrast to Tier 3 or discipline-specific words, Tier 2 words are considered general academic words because they can be used across all disciplines, which means it's really important for the students to know, but they still have trouble with them, and that's why we so often focus on Tier 2 words, especially with English language learners, because these words can be used throughout different verticals or different subjects. So still within math, science, history, reading, and writing, they can be used. For example, look, arrange, observe, predict. We predict things, observe things, and arrange things in all types of subjects. The next question goes ahead to say, a third grade English learner has grade level decoding skills and scores around the grade level benchmark for words correct per minute on oral reading fluency measures. However, the student's text comprehension is mixed. The student comprehends some literary and informational text with ease, yet struggles with others. Given this evidence, when the student is having difficulty with a text, the teacher's best initial response should be to A. Provide the student with a list of probing questions to answer after the student finishes reading the text. B. Talk with the student to formally assess the extent of the student's background knowledge about the text's topic or setting. C. Advise the student to read the text more slowly and to focus on comprehension rather than decoding accuracy. Or D. Engage the student to develop a writing summary of the text's key events or central ideas to the student's reading of the text. Go ahead, take a moment, select your best answer. The best answer here is letter B, and that is because this scenario demonstrates the important consideration of background knowledge in the student's reading comprehension of both informational and literary texts. The type and amount of prior knowledge having the students which have accumulated this level of skill related to a particular topic or setting can vary considerably, as we've seen in this example. English learners often experience the additional challenge of having had limited or no exposure of key vocabulary related to the topic or setting given in a certain type of text. The fact that the English learner's reading comprehension in this scenario varies from text to text suggests that what's probably happening is that the student's having difficulty because of gaps in background knowledge based on a particular set of vocabulary. Now, convergent research on reading comprehension suggests that background knowledge, which includes related vocabulary knowledge, because the vocabulary knowledge and concept development are often interdependent, show strong predictors for a student's reading comprehension. So these factors can also indirectly influence whether a student can successfully apply comprehension repair strategies when meaning breaks down for the student. So a teacher can informally assess the extent of a teacher's background knowledge about a text topic or story setting as a way to determine the amount of instructional support the student may need in order to gain or clarify or deepen the understanding of the text. And that's exactly what's happening here in our option letter B. Students in a second grade class will be reading a complex informal text about ants as part of a science unit focused on comparing the ways living organisms depend on one another. Prior to reading, the teacher plans to show students a video depicting activities in ant colonies and to share a picture book about ants. The teacher's actions best demonstrate understanding of which of the following factors affecting reading comprehension. Is it letter A, the ability to read fluently with prosody, B, ability to monitor for understanding, C, the role of vocabulary knowledge, or D, the role of background knowledge? Everyone have a look at the answers. Select the one that you think is best. The role of background knowledge, option D, is best here because the teacher in this scenario is focusing on systematic building for students' background knowledge related to the theme of the unit, which is how living organisms depend on one another. By showing a video depicting activities in ant colonies and reading aloud and discussing a picture book about ants, the teacher is building students' background knowledge related to the unit's theme, thereby providing them with the content knowledge they will need in order to assess more complex texts about ants that they will be reading shortly in their science unit. Moreover, by providing students with both visual and oral language experiences with the new context through the video and the picture book activities, the teacher is more likely to ensure that the context will be accessible for all students in the class. That's an excellent skill to understand and utilize in your classroom. The next question here asks, a third grade class includes several English learners who represent a variety of home languages and English language proficiency levels. Some of the students are beginning readers in English. The teacher collects folk tales from several countries to use for whole class read-alouds and during small group reading instruction. Which of the following statements accurately describes a feature of folk tales and why that feature makes the genre especially well suited for students in a multilingual, multicultural classroom? Is it letter A, folktales usually provide a resource for integrating a variety of hands-on arts and crafts projects in a reading lesson? Is it B, folktale plots tend to be compelling because they explore the human condition in depth? C, folktale themes tend to be universal, so students are likely to have the necessary schema in order to comprehend them? Or is it D, folktales usually include archaic vocabulary which students are likely to find amusing? Take a moment here. Choose the answer that you think is best. All right, we're going to go with letter C here. Letter C is correct because folktales convey universal themes common in most cultures, such as virtues of compassion and generosity, humility, and succeeding for all types of cultures. So these convey the positives over the negative types of themes that we can teach students that we don't want for them to practice, such as selfishness, greed, excessive pride, and boastfulness. In addition, different versions of some folk tales exist across cultures. So, for example, like Cinderella stories, a lot of cultures have a Cinderella story. Thus, students in a multilingual, multicultural classroom are likely to have the necessary schema or background knowledge in order to comprehend the stories because of the universal aspect of these stories. Our next question provides us some information below and asks, a kindergarten teacher frequently conducts think-alouds when reading aloud to the class. The following is a transcript of the teacher reading aloud an informal text called Making a Bird Feeder. The teacher's think-aloud process is seen below in italics. Which of the following text analysis skills does the teacher model during this think-aloud? So text is making a bird feeder. The materials show 1 2-foot piece of string, 1 pine cone, honey, seeds, and 2 bowls, 1 coat hanger, and we have a set of instructions here. Number 1 is get the materials together. Number 2 is tie the string to the top and bottom of the pine cone. Pausing, the teacher demonstrates. I wonder why the instructions say to tie the string to each end. I'm going to keep reading and see. Step 3, pour honey in 1 bowl and seeds into another bowl. Step 4, hold the string at each end, dip the pine cone in the honey, and then dip it in the seeds. The teacher pauses. Oh, now I know why the instructions say to tie the string to each end. If I didn't, I think I would get honey all over my hands, and they would become sticky. Step 5, tie each pine cone bird feeder to a coat hanger until you are ready to hang them outside to attract bird friends. So that's our information that we're given. Is the best answer, drawing conclusions about information in a text, identifying a text central idea and supporting evidence, making predictions about information in the text, or D, locating evidence in a text to support an argument. Take a moment here. Predict which answer you think is best. If you chose A, you're right. A is correct because the italicized text, the think aloud, the kindergarten teacher models how to pose questions during reading and use background knowledge to draw conclusions about information in the text. The teacher uses information in the text and background knowledge about stickiness of honey to draw a conclusion about why. Step 2, tying the string to both ends of the pine cone happens before the other steps. Here we have a dialogue, and in this dialogue, the teacher's practice of prompting students with connecting words benefits their oral language development primarily by, is it A, reinforcing for students the importance of supporting literary analysis with relevant evidence from the text, B, modeling for students various grammatical correct sentences, C, promoting students' use of sentences and grammatical structures of increasing complexity, or D, encouraging students to use Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words. Everyone, if you have not already read the dialogue, take a moment here, pause the video, read the dialogue, and then select the answer that you think is best. If you chose option letter C, you are correct. C is right because although younger students may have a reason for their answer developmentally, they may not be used to making complex grammatical statements to express cause and effect. Now, when the teacher holds up the word because, the teacher scaffolds the student's response, prompting the student to give a reason without the teacher asking a direct question. Once the student offers the cause or the reason for the stated opinion, the teacher prompts the student into creating a more complex sentence using an appropriate conjunction or connecting word, which is because or so. Now, doing this, the teacher in effect supplies the conjunction so or because to the student who needs to and then therefore is able to form a complex sentence. Super cool. If you can have those already typed and laminated and you ask a question, the student provides a response, and then you just hold up the because sign, it just naturally elicits a reason, which is really cool. Here we have the teacher brings in a variety of building materials mentioned in the story, The Little Yellow Chicken's House, for example, straw, wood, stones, for the students to describe, sort, and categorize. The teacher also asks the students to describe how the character used the materials in his house. The teacher's actions best demonstrate attention to which of the following instructional goals? Is it A, developing metacognitive skills, B, developing oral language expression, C, developing listening comprehension, or D, developing meta-linguistic awareness? Take a pause, select your answer. If you chose B, developing oral language expression, you are right, and that's because the teacher uses various attributes of the physical materials, for example, straw, wood, stones, and how they were used by the character in the story to provide the students with opportunities to practice key language functions such as describing and categorizing in meaningful context. In addition to enhancing young students' oral language development, this approach also supports their emerging text analysis skills by providing them with purposeful opportunities to continue engaging with and discussing the text. Let's keep going. Next, we have the question says, the question asks, the teacher's practices in this scenario best demonstrate which of the following key principles of effective vocabulary instruction for pre-kindergarten children as described in the TExES pre-kindergarten guidelines. Again, everyone, I just want to make it clear to you that if you don't know the TExES pre-kindergarten guidelines, if you haven't already, it is laid out by the administration for free. However, the TExES pre-kindergarten guidelines goes over all of the subjects: teaching, reading, teaching math, teaching science, history, all of the subjects and what the students need to know from pre-kindergarten all the way through 6th grade. The document is gigantic, but our team here at teacherstr.com has gone through and sifted for only the information that you need to know regarding reading instruction for your Science of Teaching reading test and placed it in a neat area, I guess, a neat format for you. We even have a table. It is so clear and easy to learn from using the study guide. And then we actually have 3 lessons built off just the TExES pre-kindergarten guidelines in our online course. It's a huge aspect that you need to know. And so either go do your own due diligence for free by getting their PDF and seeing the extensive writing that they've done, or save the time, spend a little bit of money, get our online course or our study guide or our bundle that includes both, where we literally give you what you need to know for the test. Just want to let you know. All right, down below, looks like we have some information. Pause here, read it. Go ahead. I'm going to read our options. We have letter A, using young learners' home language as a foundation for building the vocabulary. B, creating ways for young children to interact with and use new vocabulary in meaningful context. C, providing young children with feedback to correct their use of new vocabulary, to clarify meanings if necessary. And then D, encouraging young children to respond to questions about new vocabulary and to relate new vocabulary to their prior experiences. Pause here, select the answer that you think is best. If you're going with B, so am I, and B is correct because the teacher in the scenario is using a read aloud of an informational text and hands-on experiments related to the text to support children's vocabulary and concept development and purposeful language use. This approach supports their understanding of new words and concepts, as well as deepens their understanding of words and concepts they may already know. According to research, again, which is part of the STR administrations that we need to use for our constructed response question in the science of teaching reading text, we need to know this type of research that has recently come out about reading instruction. So, according to the research in vocabulary instruction, children learn new vocabulary more effectively when it is represented in meaningful contexts, and the children have frequent opportunities to interact with and use the new vocabulary words purposefully. So a couple of key words here: purposeful. Teachers need to set purpose. Teachers need to set play-based ways for the kids to learn. There's a small list of them. Again, I just can't emphasize enough. We just clearly laid them out in the online course and the study guide. Go grab that. But I'm happy to give you this free information here and now. It's just that it's partial to what you need to complete the test. All right, let's keep going. Next, the extension of the activity best demonstrates the teacher's understanding of which of the following key factors affecting vocabulary development in pre-kindergarten children. Again, take a look at the information below. I'll read our options. Is it letter A, benefits of engaging families to have literacy play a prominent role in their household? B, the interrelationships between vocabulary development and concept learning. C, the role of families in supporting and reinforcing young children's vocabulary development. Or D, the importance of making abstract vocabulary words concrete for young learners. Take a moment here. Select the answer that is best. Letter C is best, everyone. That's because young children are more likely to use new words and incorporate them into their everyday vocabulary if the words are used and reinforced in the home as well as in school. Now, by sending home materials and instructions for creating a window garden, the teacher is helping to create a context in which the use of new vocabulary can be extended to the home. All right, here we have a question that asks, during the second reading of the text, the teacher would like to focus students' attention on analyzing the author's craft. How can the teacher best achieve this goal? Pause here, read the information in the middle, and I'll read our options. Letter A says, by using the illustrations and text to discuss the feelings and reactions of the main character. B, by promoting students to retell the story in the order that the events occur, for example, first, next, then. C, by rereading very expressively the parts of the text that are written in quotations. D, by discussing how the text is constructed, for example, who narrates the text, the use of dialogue, word choice, and diary structure. Pause here, select the answer you think is best. If you're going with letter D, so am I. D is correct because analyzing an author's craft includes analyzing text structure, word choice, narration, and dialogue. During the discussion, the teacher can use text-dependent questions aimed at author's craft in order to support students in understanding the text on a deeper level. So let me give you an example here. A unique feature of the text described in this scenario is that it uses a diary structure as a way to tell the story in the first person. A discussion of why the author chose to structure the text in this way or choose to use certain words can help kindergarten students better understand a character's feelings, motivations, reactions, while discussing the use of dialogue can help them better understand the character's key story events. The next question here, it asks, after the third reading of the text, the teacher has students discuss whether the goldfish was happier when it was once alone in a fishbowl or when it rejoined the other creatures in a large fish tank. The student must work with a partner to locate support or evidence from the text and illustrations for their claim. Conducting this type of collaborative conversation as part of a focused rereading protocol benefits students' understanding of a complex text by primarily is it A, encouraging students to slow down and pay closer attention to the text, B, encouraging students to co-construct meaning using evidence from the text, C, promoting the use of questioning as a way to improve understanding of the text, or D, promoting the use of visualization and mental imagery to clarify the text's meaning. Pause and select your answer. All right, here we have letter B is best when students interact with their peers about a text. They can help facilitate one another's comprehension of the text. Understanding of the text is co-constructed as the students ask each other questions or challenge each other with an argument or claim. Having them locate support from the text and illustrations deepens their analysis and raises their accountability with respect to the claims that they make. Everyone, at the end here, we are providing this practice test for free, and in doing so, I would highly appreciate knowing which where and how did you find our test preparation material. Remember, we are coming from teacherstr.com, and if you found us through an organic Google search, one of our YouTube videos, our Facebook group, or perhaps from a colleague or friend recommendation, let us know. Choose how you found us, and we would really appreciate it. And then next, we want to know which option you would best prefer. Is it just the study guide? Are you kind of like a independent learner who prefers to read in order to learn? Are you a person who is a visual learner who likes learning through explanation and videos, use our online course? Or are you like a type A person where you're thinking, I would rather spend $100 and pass the test on my next try rather than chance it and then actually have to receive that response in an email saying I didn't pass, have to go through the entire process of taking those hours and hours out of your day and studying for the same test again, as well as paying for the same test again. So let me know which you're most interested in, and then once you click the submit button, you can go here, and then click submit. You can view your score. Well, let's see how I did. All right, so cool. We got 27 out of 27, which is great. But at the end, I just want to let you know that we have links to our products down below. So if you just go ahead, click any one of these three, and you go to, let's say, our bundle option, for example, which is the study guide and the online course. And remember that I literally made this because I felt that all of the other material just was not suitable in order to pass the test. So I thought, hey, I personally am a visual learner. I am not seeing other study guides that are zero fluff and easy to read, so I made that study guide. And then I also thought, hey, I need a visual support that helps pop the information out because the STR has so much information, so I made that for myself, and now you can have it too. And we label it as our course and online study guide. We call it our bundle. Go ahead, buy it. It's $99. Our course alone is $79, and our study guide is $39.99. So go ahead, get that. And yeah, if you appreciated this video, let me know. Drop me an email at support@teacherstr.com. Go ahead to www.teacherstr.com for links to all of our resources. Best luck in studying. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's any way I can help. Join our free online Facebook group with links at our website. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.